This is Sexy Funny Raw, where we chat all about the world of sex, from dating and relationships all the way to the adult industry itself. I'm Silvia Saige, and this is my Pornspective, answering all the questions you weren't even brave enough to ask Google. Get ready, because Sexy Funny Raw starts now.
Hey! Welcome back to another episode of Sexy Funny Raw. I am your host, Silvia Saige. Joined in studio with me is my co-host, Dr. Eddie, giving us his public health perspective. Thank you, Dr. Eddie. And you guys, it is my honor, my privilege to bring you one of my bestest friends in the whole wide world and performer of the year.
Still uncomfortable.
Cherie DeVille. Why does it make you uncomfortable? It's such a huge accomplishment.
Well, you're like, I know you, and one of your love languages is like words of affirmation.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So like, if I literally never got another word of affirmation, I'd be a happier person.
You're like, I hate it. Meanwhile, I literally journal to myself every day, listing off my positive qualities. But
I'm working on appreciating words of affirmation more. So thank you.
Good. Okay, mine is I hate getting gifts. People who buy me gifts make me cringe, and I have one friend.
I'm so glad I know that.
Oh,
because like I'm a okay.
No, I have a friend, Melanie, and you know you do it, and I tell her all the time. I'm like, stop buying me things. It makes me so uncomfortable.
Cherie,
love
your
language.
time, right?
Time.
Yeah.
Time. Yeah.
I get that.
Anyone who will spend time with me is my favorite.
You're like a lab, little puppy. Will you go be my friend?
Just sit in the room with me.
Well, quality time too is
right.
important, right?
Yeah.
I'm time to a degree as well.
All right, but that's not what we're talking about today, you guys. It's not even close to what we're talking about. The problem with this is that we are actually all friends. Everyone in this room is friends outside of this room, so it's really hard to stay focused. We just want to I just want to have lunch and dinner with you guys, you know? So it feels like we're like on vacation. I'm like, we only have so many hours in the studio. All right. So we are talking about misogyny in the porn industry specifically, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, because it most certainly does. It exists in every industry. And any industry I've ever worked in, misogyny exists. Misogyny exists in our world. We are surrounded by it day in and day out. But it is wrapped up in a porn ideal that may not necessarily be the truth, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, and Dr. Eddie, you pointed this out, but you had said that not every fan, and exclusively kind of super fans in general, or to be known as super fans, are usually the ones who are the most understanding of women in our position.
And respectful of their power, and definitely.
Yeah, and they see us as, good, strong, powerful women who could make good mothers, as opposed to, I think, what we're used to seeing, which is the Christian evangelistic ideas of making us these evil creatures, who are preying on the weak and innocent,
I think it's a really nuanced conversation, and certainly we've discussed this a little bit already, but when we're seeing misogynistic scenes, it's not the same as misogyny occurring. Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so I think that is very, very confusing to people a lot of the time, because that's what you see. You see a woman being mistreated in some instances. Right.
Sometimes we perform misogynistic themes in our adult content because people enjoy consuming those themes. It's just another fetish.
Yes, and we are actors performing a scene for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that, we have consented to being degraded in some way, shape, or form. It's not necessarily because we get to set and they're like, get on your knees, that's not what we're walking into.
And in fact, in scenes like that, there's usually a higher level of consent every
100%.
time you cut. If I'm, depending on what role you're playing, you're checking in with your talent. Is everything okay? You're maybe laughing about stuff in between, and then you're back into character. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think if people saw those in-between moments, it would be very different for them.
Well, because what it comes to mind when you say that for me is I think back to my kink scenes, which ideally, it seems very misogynistic because I'm tied up completely and I have zero control. But I really have all control.
Yeah, the sub always has all the control.
Right. Even to the point of I was tied up with a ball gag in my mouth, and what they tell you with a ball gag is the 3 moans are a no. And I apparently had made the moans without knowing it, and they stopped all production, grabbed the ball out of my mouth, and they're like, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm totally fine." Like, what happened? Wait, why did we stop filming? And they're like, "You made the 3. And I was like, "Oh, did not mean to do that. I'm totally fine. Actually, we can keep going."
Better to check though. Yeah.
Right. But exactly, I think a lot of people don't realize that we are signing up for this exact thing, and if we weren't okay with it, we wouldn't be in that setting.
Yeah, and different people are willing to participate in different themes. You know, I personally enjoy themes of loss of control. I even enjoy misogynistic themes, although that's not something I like in real life. I think those two things can exist in the same person happily.
Well, and I think that's what a lot of people forget is that porn is fantasy land. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a true life statement that's going on. I remember one time I got very offended by, it was another performer I was kind of casually seeing in the industry, and I had seen a movie that he made, and I felt for the female in the movie, and I was like, I can't believe you would have done this to this poor woman. And he was like, you have got it all wrong. He was like, she coordinated this scene. Yeah. He was like, she asked all of us to come do this. This was her idea. This scene was her idea. And I thought, okay. Well, that was a time where I got put in my place because I forgot that she must have consented to this or the movie wouldn't have been made. Right. You know?
I think we can't totally dismiss that there's certainly a history of misogyny in the adult film industry
100%.
where how it developed, when it developed,
yes.
The relationships certainly historically and in some instances still today, right? We're speaking from a slightly privileged vantage point, right? But not all of the adult film industry is the same, and it's quite broad, and there's lots of different little bubbles. And within those bubbles, there's certainly an existence.
Well, yeah, if misogyny exists in the United States, then it exists in every industry and every workplace within the United States, including porn. And I think it can be seen more in porn because we sell what sells. Right? And in a misogynistic society, those themes are going to sell more. Just like there are my civilian, we call it, that's the word we use. My friends who are not in porn often ask me why there isn't more porn depicting female pleasure. And that's the answer is clicks.
Yeah.
We film what people want to watch. There are plenty of production companies who exclusively film that type of content. It is relatively unpopular. So they kind of have it on lock. If I decided that was all I was going to produce, I would know that I would be taking a huge financial hit. So we kind of work in tandem with society, and as it changes, look at how different porn is, and look at porn in the 90s.
Yeah.
Every woman looked exactly the same, maybe just with a different hair color. They had certain themes. And as society evolved, the different body types that you see in porn evolved, the different themes that people were interested in seeing, the different genders. All of these things change in tandem with society. And we might want to think of society as better or different than it is, but I think we just hold a really intense magnifying glass on
porn.
Reality of society. Because we are what you type at midnight into your Google search. We're not what you say to your neighbors in your church or your ways. So we are really showing the fucking truth of what people want.
Well, even the porn industry, how it's changed since I have been in, not even going back as far as the 90s. I mean, I got in 2014, and it's changed dramatically since I've been in. I mean, let's talk about go-sees. Do you remember go-sees? They don't exist any longer, but a go-see was...
Do they not exist? I just figured they didn't exist because I was so...
Yeah.
They're like, no, we know
We
her.
know who you are and what you look
Don't
like.
come.
I don't think they exist anymore because I was on set the other day with a young girl, and we had said something about go-sees, and she was like, oh, what was that? And we were like, oh, well, you actually had to go see a director, and then you would, in front of this director, disrobe, and then you would twirl around for him just so he could get a 360 view of your little naked body and decide if he wanted to use you for one of his movies. Wildly misogynistic outgo.
But also, before the internet, like, how else were you going to do it?
Well,
I mean, we are the way our bodies look.
True.
were important to sales.
True.
And they needed to know that this photo that someone sent them wasn't
True.
however many
True.
years old. But now they
it's
can just
different.
go on our social media and see what we looked like live yesterday.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
And then that might be why the ghosties have left. I just assumed they left because it was a very like degrading, bizarre. Yeah, because I never felt comfortable in those scenarios. Every time I had to go and do that, I always was like, what am I?
Yeah,
What
it was a
is
little
this
weird
right now.
It was a little weird.
And it just felt very uncomfortable always, too, because the men who were judging me were certainly not men that should be in a judging.
And women, but yes, mostly men.
Yeah, mostly men. Yeah, but I would show up and I'm like, and this is the dude who decides if my body is good enough to be on camera? Are we serious right now?
Well, isn't that, that's part of even the fact that the women in this industry are paid so much better is kind of misogyny because our bodies for their physicality are valued more in that arena, right?
True.
If it were truly equal, then the male bodies would be valued as much.
Yeah.
And it isn't.
No, 100% not. It is the one place in the world where we make more
Misogyny
money.
works in our favor.
Yeah. No, that is accurate, though.
Well, but I mean, we wouldn't be so much more valued if it weren't for us being objectified down to our looks, which is misogyny.
Yeah, 110%. So, I mean, playing into it, you're right. We absolutely play into it, but we do it as a role. We are not, victims of this misogynistic. I don't ever feel as though I'm a victim in the adult industry in the slightest, if I'm being honest.
Well, I don't think you would allow yourself to be a victim in life.
Well, true.
I was able to comfortably stand up for myself when I was very, very young, through school, in my previous career, because someone came to me with a prescription for penis massage once. So this is not a porn thing. I am very comfortable setting boundaries.
A real script.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm very
milking?
I don't know what the man wanted or where he got the prescription pad, but I was like, I actually don't do that kind of work, but my colleague James does. I'm sending him in.
Yeah.
It wasn't what he was hoping for.
I bet not.
Yeah.
But we'll
turns
get
out
the
his
job
penis
done.
was fine.
Ah.
It was just, But in other words, I feel like, unfortunately, as a woman in this society, being able to set boundaries is a very important skill in and out of porn. I think that's a skill that I've definitely used in porn.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of people's sort of bad stories on set, and not to dismiss anything that anyone went through, but I think the reason I don't have any bad stories on set is because if someone asked me to do A, B, and C, no judgment on the activities, and I don't want to do or say one of those activities, or I feel like going home immediately, I just go home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just don't do those things, and I'm just so comfortable with the word no.
Yeah.
There's probably lots of instances, though, where people don't have the power in the relationship to say no, or the experience to say no.
I'm talking about mainstream porn.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I think no is always accepted in mainstream porn. That doesn't mean everyone is comfortable saying no, but I would argue that is the only job requirement of a porn performer, is the ability to comfortably set boundaries.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. I know I've stopped several scenes and been like, look, I physically can't finish this, you know, so we'll find another way to do it, or we just go home,
I've talked new performers off set and just allowed myself to be berated by the director. I'm like, no, they're going home.
Because they don't want to be here.
And I'm not going to do the scene with them while they're looking uncomfortable. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Everybody goes home today. Days off. Yeah.
But even when I was brand new, but that's my personality part too. But like I said, I would argue that to be safe, especially in an industry where you are using your body, you've just got to have boundaries. You've just got to have boundaries you're willing to talk about.
But that's in everything. That's in
right. I
life,
think it just right. It's going to harm you in any job, but our job is sex.
Yeah.
Right. And that is emotional, and it is physical, and we have body parts that we're being athletes.
Yes.
So we need to know what our parameters are physically and mentally to be happy in this job.
110%. Amen to that. Cannot get enough of that. Yeah. All right. So perhaps what makes this the most controversial is the people who are coming in with the conservative, traditional, gender stereotypes.
And values, sure.
Yes. So that's the people who are making it seem to be more than what it is in the misogyny factor.
I mean, I think it's hard for people to really get into the nuance of anything lately, right? It's black and white all of the time, but nothing is black and white almost ever, right? Like trafficking, like there's certain things that are yes, but other things, not everything is so black and white. And so I think when it talks about getting into the nuance of like how gender roles have changed and its role, like masculinity has changed, the expectation for men has changed, like all of these things are a part of it. Right. And so there's not like a black and white argument to be had here. And so those nuanced kind of conversations just don't have a place in most of the conversations going on right now.
No, but that's a very good point, because I think you're seeing the message is very loud from those people. So it may not be necessarily the general consensus. I think the general consensus in the world right now is way more sex positive, but I think the loudest voices are those conservatives. Those are the ones outside picketing, are
well, they are also spending a lot of money and time to make those voices louder.
Yes, exactly.
And maybe not in the world, but certainly in the U.S.
In the United States,
sure.
In the world, there's places that are significantly more progressive when it comes to these kinds of issues.
Right.
And so here we have the coasts and then the middle, and those distinctions are pretty significant when it comes to traditional gender roles and values, conservativeness, like all of those things are almost divided by geography in a lot of instances.
Here they are.
For sure.
Not exclusively, but it's a pretty big shift. Yeah.
But I do feel like we are making the shift. I feel like it is coming into sexuality being more female driven and more female accepted, for females to be a little bit more powerful. I mean, I noticed it on my stand up. It used to feel really uncomfortable for me when I would tell people that I was an adult film actress in my stand up, because I would always feel like I kind of got like a crawl back from the audience when I would say that, and everyone would get really uncomfortable, as opposed to now when I mention it, the audience is full of women and they're going, oh my God, yes, a sex-powered women, we love you. And I was like, wow, you physically feel the shift from people's
that is new.
Yes.
I'm more comfortable telling people in the past 4 years than I ever have been. And over and over, when I tell people, instead of them having a very negative reaction or like some sort of weird shock, they're like, oh, cool. And then we just talk about something like it has, at least in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Granted.
We're very,
it's a very different place.
Very different demographic
it's
here.
More, definitely, I've seen a shift in the past few years.
Yeah. So it's positive. I feel good about where we're going. Well, I say that, and then we make these giant leaps backwards. But
isn't that the way? You know, just because even if you had 80% of the people, feeling more sex positive, that kind of makes the people that don't and who feel so strongly about it louder and louder and louder and more scared and more, and we're seeing that too.
Well, you said,
and not just in terms of sex or misogyny, but just in general, the other side, the non-sex positive, are getting louder and louder.
Well, I think you made a key point there. They're scared. They're living in such a fear-based place because it is an uneducated place to be. I think fear comes from being uneducated. You have a fear of the unknown. So if you knew a little bit more about it, we're more open to exploring things and listening to people and taking all sides of the conversation. It might be a better place for everybody.
But also, imagine this. Imagine you grew up like crazy religious and you were taught literally that if you felt these things or did certain things, you were going to burn in some crazy fire forever. Okay, so now you see people doing the thing that you might even want to do, or the things that you feel inside joyfully and happily. So you have two choices. Either everything you know in life is literally wrong, terrifying, or easier, they're evil and bad, and like the arm of Satan or whatever. You're talking about rejecting your friends, your family, your community, your faith. Even if it is all a lie, like shit, that has to be scary.
Well, I mean, I did grow up that way. I did grow up thinking, oh my God, I can't even masturbate because Jesus is watching, Like,
how did that, was it scary to like feel a different way? Like, how did that evolution happen?
Yes. I tell people all the time, like there were moments when I first got into the adult industry where, especially because I wasn't successful right out of the gate. So I definitely had those moments where I would just be sitting there in a normal day, and then I would go ghost white. And I would feel my whole body just go into this like shock of, what am I doing? What have I done to my family? What horrible mistake have I made? Like, I've done this to my whole family. They now have to take on all of my burdens because I've made this decision. And it used to hit me with like such a heavy weight on a regular basis. I mean, every few months I would get like, anytime where I felt like, maybe this isn't for me, or and I might have to leave this industry. It was that huge, like, just overpowering, like, heavy weight where I was like, oh my God, I've just done so much wrong.
That's literally the weight of misogyny, for people telling you what a woman should be, and your body physically reacting to that.
Physically felt my whole body go white and just like a heavy, like, oh my God, I can't believe I've done this. And then I'd want to throw up for a minute, and then I'd like, you know what? No. It's fine. You're a grown up. I got into porn at 30 with a college education. I'm not a dumb woman. I've made the decision I want to be making.
That's some powerful indoctrination, even to a strong and let me say, IQ is just a blessing.
Right.
It's just a blessing that you're so smart. Like, yes, you could have educated yourself, but sometimes you're just born with what you're born with. So it's amazing that even in your life, and someone who is strong enough emotionally, strong enough intellectually to get past that you could even physically feel the weight of the societal misogyny on your body, in your psyche.
I still feel it from time to time because I'm single. So I am constantly also...
You butt up against it all the time, where a man, at least in my experience, will be really excited to be open with, to meet with you, to have sex with you. Yeah. And then sometimes and they'll put that shame on you.
Yes.
Their shame will start brewing in their body, right? These ideas that they've been taught, all this stuff will start brewing in their body. And then they like vomit it all over you. Yeah. And you're like, oh, this sounds like a you problem. But at the end of the day, it does make it harder to date, which does become an us problem.
Yes, because to so much of the world who has been taught that, women shouldn't be sexual, we are... what is the word I get a lot? Damaged, or like high mileage of things like that. Like, I need to feel like less of a human because I've had sex with other humans. Like, if anything, like, I feel like I'm stealing a little bit of their power every time, like I just get more powerful and more powerful.
Well, it does make me know, I think experience in anything makes you know what you like more. If I had only ever had carrots, I wouldn't know the joy of other things. So it hones in on what you really, really like. Like, you try something and you're like, well, that wasn't for me, but now you know.
Yeah.
How else are you going to know?
Yeah.
You and your genuine happiness and everything that your body and your mind wants sexually.
Yeah. You got to try it.
Yeah. And I think, at least in the United States, it's relatively new. Like, even our parents, women of that generation, were really property of their husbands.
Yeah.
And it was hard financially. Like, divorce, people would reject you from society. You were damaged just by being divorced. It was harder to find a job. The job you could pay, even if it was the same as a man's, paid less. I mean... So we really were beholden to the men in our life to live.
It wasn't even until the 60s that women could even get a home by themselves.
Do you know what I mean? So I do understand.
Was it 70s when women could get a home by themselves?
I'm not sure.
So I even understand what the culture of women policing women.
Yeah.
Because our moms, if they didn't police this behavior out of us, and we couldn't find a husband in the misogynistic society, what were we going to do?
Oh, my mother still plays that narrative.
Right, but we had to. But if we didn't police our daughter's sexuality and shut them down, they wouldn't have been partners that would have gotten... Like, it's sad that cultural of taking other women down happened, but it was a goddamn survival skill.
Yeah. No, I mean... my own mother is very religious, and she is the one who in fact says to me, no man will ever love you because of the decisions you've made in life, so I have this coming in from my own mother and society. So it definitely still, like, every once in a while I definitely have those feelings of like, oh my God, I have ruined myself, so I don't believe it. I don't like keep that feeling, but it definitely like soaks in from time to time.
Well, it's weird. I imagine like any other like weird group mentality, even like other historically crazy group mentalities. if you were outside of that group mentality, you were probably made to think that you were the crazy one,
Yeah.
even if you're like, you know what, the gas chambers seem like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like, y'all, this is anyone else a bad idea?
Yeah.
No one else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe it's just me. Yeah. Yeah. No, accurate. Very accurate.
The irony of a lot of this is that the opposition who's saying that they're doing what's good for us and trying to save us from sex work are really the most misogynistic of all, right? Because a lot of times what they're saying is that women shouldn't have multiple sexual partners. Women should be with just one man. Women should la, 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 which is misogyny, right? All those criterion that they're placing on us to help us is just the criterion to keep us down, to keep us quiet, to keep us subservient, to keep us, wrapped up, to continue to be wrapped up in their bubble of misogyny.
Yeah. If they can silence these strong women
Right.
who are speaking out against exactly what they're telling you is wrong. Yeah.
Right. But really, we have, like we talked about, we have the financial freedom, we have sexual
Yep.
autonomy, we have consent, we
Yep.
have joy, and that scares the shit out of them.
Yeah. And we have money. Whoa.
Right. And we're supposed to need men
Yes.
for sex.
Yeah.
We're supposed to need men for money. We're supposed to need men. I think it might be terrifying that these past couple generations have been the first that were like, actually, we're good.
We don't really need
We'll
you guys.
choose you.
Yeah, choose you.
A partner that brings us value,
Yeah.
but not needing you. You wonder why divorce rates are up. They're always like societal moral collapse. No, we're not trapped.
Yeah.
The women aren't trapped anymore. We're physically, financially subservient through cultural misogyny.
Yeah.
And the moment that went away, we're like, personal choice.
Yeah, and these men are so very scared by that. So they will do
anything.
anything, to keep us back in our little holes, naked and barefoot in the kitchen.
And they're going to use shame, and they're going to use religion, and they're going to use as much pressure as they can to keep us tightly controlled.
Oh, just the fact that I am a grown-up woman who is not married and has no children. What shame I must feel for that.
Or the weirdest thing where people are like, don't you feel like you're missing out on
Right.
something?
On
Are you
what?
On diapers?
Yeah.
On screaming?
Yeah.
Nah.
I've been to my friends' houses who have kids. I'm great, actually.
I mean, thank God some people are having kids and
Yeah.
the human race wouldn't continue,
Yeah.
but like, I'm good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'll just keep the money instead. All right, guys. I think wrap it up on misogyny there. So I think the intake that we're coming away from this, you guys, is although, of course, misogyny exists in the porn industry, it exists in every industry, and it exists all over the United States. It exists in the rest of the world in different places. But what we can do is combat it with knowledge, and continue being the strong women that we can be, and just know that what we are doing is consensual, and we have taken back a lot of what you think is the misogynistic
Right.
traits of pornography.
And vote with your eyeballs. If you don't enjoy misogynistic content, let me tell you something. If nobody was watching it, nobody would film it.
yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Just period.
Yeah.
So
We're creating
watch
content
other
that
stuff.
sells.
Watch, and more importantly, purchase the content that you want to see more of.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. All right, guys. Cherie, tell the people where they can find you, because they will be looking.
They will be. Google me, Cherie DeVille, Instagram, Cherie DeVille XO, and Twitter, Cherie DeVille.
I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you, Dr. Eddie, for being with us again today. We appreciate everything that you do and giving us your public health perspective. And even though days like today, when it is kind of a different conversation, it is not as, scientifically based, and we don't need all of these stats, we still really appreciate having you here and giving us all the information. So
There's a lot of social science in here, though.
there is.
There's a lot of social
Yeah.
science in here, for sure.
Anthropology going on.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. All right, guys, until next time, adios.